Welcome to the Long COVID podcast with me, Jackie Baxter. I am really excited to bring you today's episode. Please do check out the links in the show notes where you can find the podcast website, social media and support group, as well as a link to buy me a coffee if you are able. You should not rely on any medical information contained in this podcast and related materials in making medical, health-related or other decisions. Please do consult a doctor or other health professional. I love to hear from you. If you've got any suggestions or feedback or just want to say hey, then please do get in touch. I really hope you enjoy this episode, so here we go. Hello and welcome to this very special episode of the Long COVID podcast. Today I am going to be joined not by one guest but by several, all of whom are here to share their fantastic creativity. So we've got a wide array of people who have done painting and poetry and writing, also some music, and some people who have done more than one of those things. I've done this episode every year, this creativity, because I think it is so wonderful to be inspired by people who are using creativity to help them to process things, as a means to help them to calm themselves for mental health, a wide variety of things, as well as potentially bringing them together, for example, the choir. Why is this important? So many reasons. With conditions like long COVID and ME/CFS, we can feel so isolated, we can feel so disconnected, and creativity can be a way to calm ourselves, to process things, to connect with ourselves, to connect with others, to take us out of our own heads, to get into that kind of flow. And it doesn't matter how long you do it for, whether it's 2 minutes or 2 hours. It doesn't matter if it's good. You know, so many people judge themselves on the quality of what they do. And I think with creativity, certainly here, but actually creativity generally, it's not so much about what you do, it's doing it in the first place. So I hope you enjoy this episode. It brings tears to my eyes as I put it together. And all of the people who have contributed will have links to their social media, their website, anything they want to share in the show notes. So please do go check that out. And anyone who has a visual component to what they've shared, their work will be on the creativity page on the podcast website, which will also be linked in the show notes. So please do go and check out the art and anything else that these people have shared. If you are interested in joining the Long COVID and ME/CFS Healing Through Creativity Facebook group, there's also going to be a link to that in the show notes. And this year we've really expanded with all sorts of events and it's been really fun. So without further ado, I am going to get out of the way and let you enjoy everyone's wonderful creativity. And a final word, there might be something here that may be triggering to you, so please take care of yourselves, and if you need to listen to this on a different day, then please do that. So here we go.
Hi, I'm Annabelle, and I've loved writing all my life. I have an early memory of a jotter which my gran bought me one Christmas, and the pages were filled from front to back with writing, and I had written with a pen and been so enthusiastic through every page that the pages crackled as I turned them over. And now I can't remember much about what I wrote about. I think it was about my experiences, and I just loved being in the flow of it, which has led to a way of writing now, which I would describe as free flow writing. And that is certainly not about being perfect. It's about writing whatever comes to mind in a way that associates with things that you want to think about, like things that are good in life or nature through the senses, that type of thing, so that you absorb yourself in it. And I certainly have found that helpful to the point that I've written a book, and I write meditations and things like that. And I've written a lot of blogs as well. And that free flow style, and particularly the expression of it, seems to have the effect of getting in touch with myself, what's important in my life, what is there that could be attended to right now, and just generally feeling back to being centered and balanced. And whether it's been in good times or challenging times, I've always found it to be therapeutic and have some kind of shift of energy as well, even just lightly and gently. And it's not about forcing an outcome. Like, I would encourage you to pick up a pen and just write whatever you want to write about today. It might be the view out the window. It might be something that's a nice memory. It may be family time or something to do with your friends or a place you've been. And that's what I did in the piece that I'm going to share today, which was inspired by a trip to the wild Pacific coast, the west coast of Vancouver Island, and being really deeply in nature. And it naturally led me to be so present with myself that it really changed something in the way that I notice things, and certainly in how I express them as well. I felt called to bring together my thoughts and feelings and the incredible range of wildlife that we were there to see without disturbing it in any way. And that is also in the book. And so for that today, I hope you enjoy that and the rest of the podcast. And thanks for listening. This is called A Wild and Mindful Life by Annabelle. A journey of 10,000 miles, planes, trains, automobiles, boats and a cable car to arrive in this wild and beautiful place, facing out over the Pacific Ocean, feeling the rhythm of the waves, watching the surf for endless hours day and night, mesmerised by the beautiful rise and fall of the water. And now and again, a visit from the wildlife whose land we have invaded, sitting still so as not to disturb them. Eagles soaring and swooping, with a flash of white feathers on their heads and tails, a majestic wingspan over 6 feet wide. A bear bumbling its way happily through our back garden, finding its way back to the lush forest it came from, to hushed cries of delight and paused breath while we took in the sight. A graceful deer exploring on the rocks just a few feet away, disappearing for a short time then returning with her newborn fawn, a privilege to share the miracle of new life, urging little legs to find their strength, clattering clumsily on the rocks, and being honoured by daily visits right past where we were sitting, both of them becoming more and more steady and trusting as the days passed. Being startled by the high-pitched twittering and swift movement of a hummingbird, hovering briefly to drink in the sweet, syrupy water in the bird feeder, and then many more followed, with wings so fast they were a blur, yet the bright metallic green of their feathers was still and shining. Watching a humpbacked whale as her glossy back arced through the water, and the gigantic graceful tail following slowly, an experience of a lifetime to be in her presence. I have never felt such awe and wonder of being alive. At peace, in stillness, noticing every drop of rain and whisper of trees, sensing an eternity as well as a single moment, feeling strong emotions and connection with the people who have lived here for thousands of years before us, humble and gracious about preserving their lands and oceans and all the life they hold. And I'm so thankful to bring all these experiences with me, entwined in my roots and branches and the air I breathe, to remember forever.
Hi, I'm Emma Major. I'm an artist, a poet, a blind wheelchair user, and I live with long COVID. I've written poetry ever since I was a child. That form of creativity was basically my form of journaling, and I used it all the way through my teens and into adulthood. I only started painting as a way of coping with my increasing disability about 10 years ago and realised it was fantastic for my mental health. Then, when I was discharged from the hospital, having caught COVID in late 2020, I was still bedbound. I didn't really recover much over the next few months, and eventually I was told I had long COVID. It was then that I learned how to paint digitally, using my iPad. I started painting as a way of illustrating my poetry, and this resulted in a book of poetry about living with long COVID called Dormiviglia. Yeah, I'll make sure there's a link put, because you're never going to spell that. It was my long COVID consultant who read some of my poems and encouraged me to find a publisher. 2 years on, my painting has taken on a life of its own, and although I'm able to sit in my wheelchair for a few hours a day, on an average day, I paint digitally in bed or on the sofa, allowing poetry to develop at the same time. I'm lucky enough to be exhibited around the UK and to have books of poetry and art published several times a year. Things from a brand new series I'm creating called In Pain, which tries to express what it's like to live with mental or physical pain, or both. I hope you enjoy them. If you'd like to connect on social media, then you can find me at EMMUK74. Again, there'll be a link. And I have a website which I try to keep updated, which is llmcalling.com. And again, it'll be linked. The pain crippled her morning, noon and night, tormenting her every moment, determined to win the fight. The fight she never chose, didn't even know existed, yet one day she woke to find to this battle she'd enlisted. The battle was with herself, she slowly came to find. Pain could not be beaten, what a criminal mastermind. There was no other choice. She had to keep on going. She turned her back on war, the future without knowing. Could she find a way to negotiate a peace? Would pain accept a deal to give her some release? She tried to understand the issues that pain brought, to offer some solutions, but it all came to naught. Running was her only option, yet no option at all. Her legs wouldn't cooperate, she'd fall and fall and fall. Yet she kept on trying, each day a new attempt, mediating agreements, no option exempt. The pain slowly retreated, in the background it remained, still a constant presence, but in a box contained. The war with pain was over. They lived an awkward peace. There never was surrender, neither found release. They gained an understanding, a way to coexist. She listened to pain's needs, wrote up quite a list, then focused on the future, a way to thrive again. She found a way of living her best life despite the pain. Pain is irrevocably in love with the dark, taking advantage of the long, silent hours. As dawn breaks, your words are a light in that dark, lightening my heavy heart. Then, when the dam of grief breaks, you pull me from the water to safety again, reminding me that I can still fight, though it's also okay to accept what will be. On the days I long to hibernate, you whisper conversations into the void, and when yet another night approaches, you whisper a light of hope in the dark. It may feel as if everything is changing, ending, dying, but despite the fear and anxiety, amidst the grief, there is always hope. It may be only a glimmer, a blue sky on an autumn day, a kind word along the way, but when we let these moments simmer, they start to grow from a speck of light into a glow that warms the heart, reminding us that change may be hard, but in that journey there is positivity. Even when it's out of sight, it still shines a light. When days feel never-ending with far too many variables, leaving your heart in a shambles, stop and remember. The map of life is still being drawn, full of adventures yet to be glimpsed. Valleys and mountains draped with dreams are glistening just out of sight. Now is the time to hold on to future promises, lifting your eyes above the current plight.
We'll be right back. I'm interrupting myself for a second to tell you about long COVID breathing. The fabulous Vicky Jones and I have teamed up to bring you long COVID breathing. We are both passionate about sharing our expertise and experience of the breath and how incredibly helpful that can be with long COVID. We've worked together to develop a course that is specifically tailored to those with long COVID. It's a 6-week course with 12 sessions, all delivered online. The community feel and learning that we're all sharing is such a joy. To find out more information and to sign up for our courses, workshops and other shorter sessions, please check out the link below, longcovidbreathing.com, or email longcovidbreathing@gmail.com to start your breathing journey with us.
Hi, my name's Olga. I've been a musician and music teacher for a long time, so music has always been a big part of my life. But since becoming unwell, it's been hard to play music and go to gigs. Some of my musician friends organised an online concert this autumn, and it brought me so much joy. I've been part of a large online community of people recovering from long COVID, and I wanted to be able to bring some of this joy to them too. Thus formed the idea of the hibernation sessions. I invite musician friends of mine to play concerts for us on Zoom and invite my online community. What I didn't expect was that the concerts would appeal not just to people who were unwell, but to people who lived in more isolated communities or found it difficult to leave the house because of their age, or people who just fancied tuning in to a really great free concert. It's been a lovely way for me to connect with family and friends across the globe and other online music communities, but most importantly to offer a gift to anyone who is in a similar situation to me. A small reminder of the kindness in the world and the good we can do for each other, even in limited circumstances. The hibernation sessions helps me feel proud of who I am as a human, even if I can't do the things I once did. It's really empowering for me to have a project to work on, emails to check, and a reason to have positive interactions with people. When you get ill, it can feel like you lose everything, so it feels great to reconnect with old friends, make new ones and do something positive. Being involved in organising concerts makes me feel like myself again, and that in itself is very healing. So far, we've had a klezmer violinist, an Irish folk trio and an English folk singer play at the sessions. The concerts are free, but I ask for donations for the musicians, but only if people can afford it. There's no obligation to pay anything. It feels nice to help people when I'm so reliant on others for many of my needs at the moment. Life has its strange paradoxes. I may not be able to leave the house much, but I can still organise an international concert series. Thanks to popular demand, there will be a new season of concerts in early 2025. Check out the links in the bio below to sign up. I miss playing concerts. I'm not well enough to do one yet, but watch out for my first concert, which will be on the hibernation session sometime next year. And know that when it does happen, it will be a big milestone and a great reason for celebration. You are all invited. For now, here is a taster of what to expect. I thought long and hard about what to play, and I thought, God, I've got to play something really meaningful or something related to health. And I decided that was too much pressure, so I'm just going to play a song that has brought me a lot of comfort and joy. It's called The Lounge Bar, and it's written by a Norwegian fiddler about a bar in the Shetland Islands called the Lounge Bar, where they have great folk sessions. So I hope to be able to visit there sometime.
Hi, my name's Misty Brackett, and I'm thrilled to be included in this long COVID podcast about art. I have been painting probably for about 16 or 17 years, and for almost all that time, I've been lucky enough to have a group of people that I paint with once a week. So I'm used to painting in a group, and I'm what's called a process painter, in that I am just with what's happening in the moment. I don't know what I'm going to paint. I don't pre-think about it or have an image or something in mind. I use painting and art making to process my emotions. So sometimes I'll come in with a certain emotion. Sometimes I'll just pick certain colors, or something that I've seen in the last couple weeks inspires me. I sometimes include quotes. I do multimedia things, so I use paper, I use plastic. I do photo transfer, so sometimes there's a photographic image in my artwork. And what art does for me is it helps me get in touch with something organic and primal in myself. Like time disappears, or I experience time in a different way when I'm creating art, and something just flows between me and the canvas. So it doesn't feel like ego I is making the art. It feels like something greater than myself sort of comes in, because sometimes I'll get the message to use a color that ego I doesn't particularly like, but that's the download, and I respect the downloads. So I would encourage any of you that have the capacity just to to get some art supplies. It doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be, I don't buy really expensive paint or canvases, and just start creating. Start putting your hand to it, in it, on it, knitting, clay, arranging flowers. There's all sorts of things you can do, but just some experience or expression with color, I think is really, really helpful. I love making art, and love to all of you.
Hi, my name is Sally. I'm a retired nurse and an artist. Prior to COVID, I was very active. In fact, I was so strong, my husband referred to me as his industrial grade woman. We hiked at least 2 to 3 times a week. I was making art, writing poetry, taking music lessons. And then COVID hit. I had given up my art. I didn't hike anymore, no more music lessons, no more Spanish lessons. As soon as I started feeling better, I decided to make art. I put my headphones on. I played some music my nephew had composed. He plays guitar and writes very good music. And I started making an art piece. All I could think of was how I had been gaslighted by so many people. And I became very angry because when I was a nurse, I worked on a clinical research floor in the Harvard Medical System and took care of many patients who had complex health problems with no known cause and no known treatment, and they were getting a lot of health care. I sort of went into a trance and poured my feelings into my artwork. I completed a piece called Warriors. It's one of my best pieces. It has been featured in art showcases and gotten a lot of really nice feedback. I was amazed at how therapeutic it was to pour all my feelings into creating art. I decided right then and there I was going to become an advocate for long COVID. I contacted a local art center, and we have decided to put together an exhibit that features artists who have long COVID, and they will tell their stories through the art pieces. Instead of an artist statement, they will have a story of their long COVID. And there will be a speaker who wrote a book about creating art when she had long COVID, and a doctor who has long COVID will be speaking. When I was sick with COVID, I felt very, very fragile and very vulnerable. Transitioning into being an artist who is also an advocate has made me feel very empowered, and it is so much fun. If you are interested in learning more about the art exhibit, which is happening in May 2025, you can see my contact information on the page for this podcast. Thank you.
We'll be right back. Hey there, I'm just jumping in for a second to see if you're enjoying this episode. If you're finding it useful, maybe you would consider sharing it somewhere, a friend, a group, or even on your Twitter feed. If everyone was able to share just once, we'd be able to get this information out to even more people who really, really need it. So please consider sharing somewhere if you possibly can. I hope you enjoy the episode, and thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I think I've been living with ME for most of my adult life. Stubborn as I am, I was still determined to work, as I love my job as a head teacher of a vibrant but challenging school, and I was good at it too. However, by 2014, my body could cope no longer, and I was bedbound for 6 long months. My husband was amazing, nurturing me back to life. The last 10 years have been slow and painful, and I've had to grieve the me that I once had, the life that's been lost, and the dreams that I held on to. I think for me, in the stillness of bed, I was able to honour what the reality was and to begin to explore creativity through writing and crochet. Then, during lockdown, when I was getting very bored, my hubby came back with a set of watercolour paints, paper and brushes from a local discount shop, and from that moment, I've never looked back. The key for me was to embrace the cost. So at first, before I started, I would say the equipment would cost me, £1, for example, less than a coffee. So if I want to throw it in the bin, I can. And that gave me an enormous amount of freedom to experiment and really enjoy the process. Watercolour is a fantastic medium for me as I have moderate to severe ME, which means I'm housebound for around 90% of the time. I need to rest a great deal, and therefore in between washes I lie on my daybed and wait for my body to be ready to do the next bit. Painting to me is like a ballet of paper, paint and brush dancing over and around to different rhythms and tunes to produce unique pieces. Timing and patience in watercolour is everything, and I love watching the paint mix and dance on the paper. I love to capture some of the spaces I loved, the beach, the hills, and painting can take me there. It's freeing and life-giving. Recently I've opened my online shop as, with limited energy, markets and craft fairs are extremely difficult to attend. Sending off my brown paper-wrapped parcels of joy across the globe brings me such joy and fulfilment. I'm continuing to journey in my creativity, trying out a YouTube reference space where people can watch longer process videos, and that's a place in development. And I'm also hosting some online Zoom paint with me type sessions, which are lots of fun. Painting and creating gives me hope and a purpose in life. It brings connectivity to what was and hope for what might just be. Working with my body rather than against it has allowed me to rekindle that sense of joy and hope for the future. It might not look like I hoped it would, but actually it's so exciting and interesting to put paint to paper and see where that creativity might lead. So I would encourage you to give it a try. It doesn't have to cost a fortune. You can even do it in a sketchbook from your bed, because I do. Just do it and watch the colours dance together on the page, creating enchanted moments.
Hi, I'm Jade, and I've had long COVID since December 2023, and in June this year I had to stop working and things were getting really bad. It was a very difficult decision to close down my business, but it's helped me focus on recovery. I've had a lot of trouble concentrating and due to these horrible migraines and pressure in my head. A friend suggested learning to crochet as it's a new skill which helps get new pathways made in the brain, but it's not too taxing. So I learnt to crochet, and after some struggle, tangles and cute mistakes, I'm now able to make bags and animals, ghosts and bats for Halloween. Friends are requesting them, and now I'm just finishing a pair of gloves for winter. There are so many free patterns out there and things to make. You just need cheap yarn and a set of needles. I've always been creative as it's part of being human. Humans have told stories around the campfire since the dawn of time, painted on rocks, etc., etc. I think expressing yourself and your life is so individual. There is only one of you, so only one of your type of creativity. I've used this time to slowly explore more of my creative side with like painting and crafting and crochet, hopefully not putting too much pressure on myself, and it's given me something to look forward to each day. My previous work was in the film industry, so I also started my own YouTube channel to give me a creative outlet to help others with long COVID, to learn more about my situation and stay within my industry despite my current sabbatical. My channel is called Living with Long COVID Jade, and I'd love you to check it out. Expressing my creativity helps me keep a positive outlook, helps me keep learning and contributing to my growth and journey in life. So thank you and stay creative.
We're almost at the end of our 2024 creativity episode. Before our final item, I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank you for listening, to thank you for your support of the podcast this year and for the last 3 and a bit years. It has been my genuine honour to put out these episodes and to speak with so many wonderful and amazing guests. Whatever you do over the holidays, whether you're celebrating or not, I hope that you're able to find some peace and some connection and a little bit of joy, whatever you're doing. So the Long COVID podcast will be back in 2025. And here is Meryl to close us out with the Long COVID Choir.
The Long COVID Choir was formed in March 2021 by people in the darkness to others living with the debilitating effects of the condition. Accessible even to those who may be housebound or bedridden, our friendly and informal weekly online sessions have been good for our hearts, lungs and souls. We meet every Wednesday at 7 p.m. UK time, and we sing a variety of musical styles. There are no auditions, no singing experience is required, and there is no need to be able to read music. Singing together has brought us joy and friendship as we navigate the life-changing experience of long COVID. And we are so delighted to share with you our latest recording of a song that we have been practicing during our sessions. The song is in German, and the German text is as follows. Alles schweiget. Alles schweiget. Nachtigallen locken mit süßen Melodien Tränen ins Auge, Schwermut ins Herz. The English translation is as follows. All is silent. All is silent. Nightingales draw with sweet melodies, tears in the eye, heaviness in the heart. Thank you for listening to our song.
Alles schweiget, Nachtigallen, locken mit süßen Melodien, Nachtigallen, locken mit süßen Melodien, Tränen ins Auge, Schwermut ins Herz.
Thank you so much to all of my guests and to you for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it, or at least found it useful. The Long COVID podcast is entirely self-produced and self-funded. I'm doing all of this myself. If you're able to, please go to buymeacoffee.com/longcovidpod to help me cover the costs of hosting the podcast. Please look out for the next episode of the Long COVID podcast. It's available on all the usual podcast hosting things. And do get in touch. I'd love to hear from you.